So today we're joined by good friend, Chetan Shah, founder and managing director, CEO of micebook, who I'm sure everyone's heard about. Chet's going to share with us some insights in the changing world of events and the impact that technology is having. Chet's been doing an enormous amount of work across the industry and has certainly also, I wouldn't say pivoted, but evolved micebook into its solutions and offerings. So give us a share about that. But we're also going to want to talk about the micebook V Awards that he's launched and will be held at the Nobu Hotel in June, July. We'll be joined by a couple of judges from EMA who are on his panel to discuss the importance of the values of entering awards and what the judges will be looking for. I think we underestimate the value of entering awards. When I had my agency, it was very much, one, yes, client recognition, so you can show that you're recognized by your peers. But there's a massive motivation for these things internally with your teams and everything else, and it gives them a lot of pride on what they've done and achieved, especially in this new world. So I think that'd be interesting. So to tee our discussion up, Chetan. In event industry news today, I think it came out either last night or I read it this morning. There's a really interesting article that they've shared following some market research by LinkedIn, on LinkedIn. And there's no better platform for touching the world's event people. They had feedback from over 200 business-to-business event organizers in the UK. And the UK finds that 72% of business will maintain virtual events in the long term. 77% are interested in organizing hybrid events. And in fact, the business future event mix, which is very interesting reading, they're saying will be 32% physical, 45% virtual, and 23% hybrid. This could be a very interesting discussion with our members here as you open this up, because how they're thinking. But given that 31 billion a year is spent in the UK B2B events arena pre-pandemic, this suggests that virtual events industry could be worth 14 billion a year. When this group were asked about the plan to continue organizing virtual events, the top responses included that they're pandemic-proof, cost-effective, and that they give access to content without travel. So sustainability, very interesting point there. And it's not surprising given that B2B event organizers describe 2020 as a challenge. 63% a learning experience, and 40% frustrating. And I think, all of our members on this call can absolutely support that and everything else. So there's some interesting stats there, which sort of kind of very timely tee up the conversation today. Chet, you've been praised across the industry for what you've been doing on micebook, how you've built the community, how you've sort of opened doors for discussions about lots of different things, and particularly on the supply side. So looking at those stats and your observations of the market, how it's evolved over the past 12, 18 months, tell us what you're seeing and feeling.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and thanks, EMA, for having me. So I think those stats are really probably on the nose, but again, we never quite know how things will pan out. We always, things may go in a completely different direction once we're fully out of the pandemic. I don't know what that means, but we could all go back to as we were, but I really doubt that. If I look at our own events, I'm going to continue doing virtual. I'm going to continue doing hybrid, and I'm going to continue doing live. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take the best medium to reach your audience for your objectives, for your comms objectives? So I can definitely see that happening. Definitely, there's been lots of conversations about the types of events that will go live and hybrid, and some will never come back again as live, because there's just no need. There's no need to have sort of events just kept happening without any thought. They were a yearly thing for lots of organizations, but now they're going to be reevaluated. There's new risk factors to say, well, do we need to meet live for either risk factors, sustainability factors, cost factors? So everything will be reevaluated, and what will fall out the other end is really purposeful events where there's a lot to do with networking, being together, celebration. So the trend and the conversations are less events, but the ones that do happen will be bigger and they'll be more special. They'll have bigger budgets because they've really been thought out and passed that kind of test of why they need to be live. And if it passes all of those, then yeah, I think we'll probably have a better industry actually. And I think less, the phrase is less is more. So that actually could hold true with the events. So yeah, that's my top line observations on that report. I do see live and hybrid, being a huge part of this sector.
It's interesting you say less is more and everything else. That what we found in talking currently, and this is part of the challenge, is that the EMA members have been doing more virtual events than they were doing live events. So as we now start to shift, there's going to be even more events, either hybrid events, that create more workload. So that's an interesting both challenge and conundrum to our members, as well as when they start to have to think about the learning as well, the development of that. So how has micebook evolved through the pandemic, and what have you been doing from a tech point of view, services that you've developed of how thinking about an audience engagement point of view and understanding your audience and talking to them differently again?
Yeah, so we've had to change quite a bit, and I think this probably holds through to a lot of companies about what they can do and how they can do it. So back to kind of just trends. You probably heard that 10 years of evolution has happened in a year. So things that were probably going a lot this way have just gone in within a year because we've had to. I believe the event conversation has been elongated, meaning that you maybe were just putting on an event and that was it. It was a start date, an end date of campaign, and with the event in the middle, and that was it. Whereas I think the whole event conversation is elongated, meaning that it needs to be built around community. The comms need to be consistent throughout the whole year or forever. So things like community platforms, forums, all of this is really important to keep the engagement going. And an event is just one element of all of that. So that's definitely a trend, and that's something that I'll come on to that we've been looking at as well. Just some other quick trends that I thought about that in discussions just before I go on to what we've been doing. Lead times are very interesting. If you're doing any long haul, that's being booked right now. So if you are doing any international, which seems to be the most being booked in any international, is long haul. Europe is not being touched whatsoever because everyone's thinking you can do that with very short lead times. So not much in Europe we did a survey, not much in Europe is being booked. Virtual is crazy interesting. I mean, when I did the first virtual event in June last year, we had 500 odd register, and we had about 400 register about a month before. The last event we did in January, I think it was, we had 50% of our registrations in the last 12 hours. Everyone is so lastminute.com on virtual because they're used to it now. And it's bloody frustrating as event planners. As event planners, because you just don't know, and you're kind of like crapping yourself going, is anyone coming to my event? And actually in the last 12 hours we had a few hundred register, but that's just how people are because they know it's there. They click a button, they're there. There's no travel, etc. But that's two other quick things. Testing has been a huge conversation about live events coming back. That's something we've been talking about quite a lot. And the need for testing is going to be a really big part of events for the next few months, but will it be as big a part post-June? The government isn't saying so. They're kind of saying, we're open, but it'll be interesting to see. There's new testing, obviously you've got the swabs and the lateral flow test, the PCR tests. You've also got kind of just a mouth test coming out, which they're trialing. So rather than nose and throat right at the back, it's just a swab test for saliva, which would be a lot more easier. And there was talk of a mouthwash as well, but that's pretty far down the line.
Yeah, I'd heard about that and haven't heard anything else about it.
And two other quick IR35s. I don't know if any of you guys use a lot of freelancers, but the IR35 regulation, which means that if you've got permalancers or freelancers that you constantly use, that's going to be a little bit in discussion about you can't do that anymore. And it's meant to stop all those IT people that are freelancers forever and learning, So event freelancers that use a lot, IR35 is going to impact that, and you might have to consider making them in permanent, which obviously affects budgets. Brexit also taking staff or equipment across to Europe, paperwork, cost, all of that is big. At the moment it's not a big deal because no one's traveling to Europe, but it's something definitely that's on the horizon that we've been seeing. So sorry, I kind of digress. So in terms of what micebook's doing, and to relate it to those points, if I can share my screen quickly, I'll just show you some of the things we've been doing very top line. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is the voice forum. So a little bit about elongating conversation, not just around events, but keeping the community and the conversations going. So we created a forum, and this is our forum, which has got all of our kind of events and topics. People are posting different events. Some people are posting questions. And we also, so this is the micebook forum called Voice, and we've got sort of different topics within the forum. So you can join voice.micebook.com. And we've got different topics so if you've missed something and you're not seeing it in the feed, it's a bit like a Facebook feed. You can quickly go to, okay, let's go to Brexit. What has anything been posted on Brexit? There's a couple of bits that you can quickly jump to. Events we've got, and also we've got groups. So EMA have a private group here, so only EMA members, so hopefully some of you have seen the comms, only EMA members can see. We've just launched this, but hopefully this is a safe space for you to see members, to contact members. You've got a chat function directly, a bit like LinkedIn, but you've got your own area just to have your own discussions. And
this is a great tool for us guys, because we don't have the facility within our on our web platform, or we don't have our own app that does this, other than sort of like WhatsApp, but this is more visual than everything else. But the great thing is that you can go into the micebook, join through micebook. You can see micebook chats if you want, but other than that, you just go straight to the EMA, and that's where we chat, and nobody else can see that or get involved in that. But you can get involved in other chats if you want to.
Yeah, and once we're on the move as well, there is an app, so you can be connected, and it's a pretty good app. So that's one. So that's one thing. We also launched Voice Diaries, where you can't actually get a fam trip going. So if you want to join as an influencer, go and visit one of our partners and write about it and share on your own social. That's what we've been doing to help not only hotels and venues get their message across, but also to get planners into spaces as individuals or as a couple or partners. Got a jobs board that we launched. So if you're recruiting or know someone who's looking, that's all on mustbeonit.com. We've also launched lots of different suppliers sectors. So we've got freelancers, virtual platforms, event safety services, lots of virtual suppliers there. So if you're looking for virtual platforms, you can advanced search on all of these sectors. And of course, as you hopefully know, as a buyer account, you can write notes which are private to you and your company on all of these suppliers. So if you worked with a company, worked with a virtual supplier, an event safety supplier, etc., then you can write notes about what was good, what was bad, but only you guys see it. So you can see here event safety services, which we've just launched. So if you're looking for testing companies, etc., you can find them here. We've also got some guides, so event safety guides. We've written articles, and you can see some of the suppliers. Virtual event guide. Again, this is all under destinations in the top tab.
It's really become more, hell of a lot more content than just a supplier portal. Did you mention to me, I don't know if you've done that yet, so again, one hand I'm involved with this, but virtual tours?
Yeah, so I was just coming to that. So
All
if
right,
you go
sorry.
to no, so if you go to the portal micebook.com, put in a destination, say Manchester. If you click on some of the hotels, we've asked them all to upload their 3D tours. So this is the Hotel Brooklyn in Manchester, which just opened pre-pandemic, closed, and now open again. Yeah. So you've got obviously all of the details you need as an event planner, bedroom. You've got downloads, but you've also got the virtual tours, which are integrated into the profile. So you can just click in and then see the event spaces. So if you can't do a site visit, or you've done one but you just want to revisit, you can do that on the profile. And then, yeah, so that's basically what we've been up to, is trying to help the industry stay connected digitally. Yeah. Oh, I've got a question, and I don't know if anyone can give me some initial feedback. If anyone wants to jump on, I'd really like to hear this. Say this profile, the Manchester profile that I just showed you, if you could do a video call, like a Zoom call, straight from here to the supplier, rather than using, I guess you could obviously use Zoom, you can use Teams. Would that be of interest? Would there be any value? You don't need to answer now, but if you have any thoughts, drop it to me, chetan@micebook.com. But we're looking at, so this would, sorry, let me just share again. So you'd search for a hotel profile, and say you've booked an appointment at 12, and you just come here rather than Zoom, and you just do a video call straight on here. I guess the benefit here would be, imagine a doctor having a consultation. What you could then do is write your notes on this profile straight as you're talking once you're logged in. And the video would be recorded and saved into the profile so you can come back to it. Would that be of interest? I'd be really interested to know whether we should bother, working on that technology, if it would be of interest, or actually, no, we just do it through Zoom. No real need.
Yeah, check for a minute, because Jen, I personally think this is an area that hasn't broken through. Is just talk for a minute, because I don't want to go off the track too far, is about the use of micebooks for capturing your notes and data, how you as a buyer can use it. We are trying to create an EMA group who then share that content, but yeah.
Yeah, so let me just quickly for a minute, just show you how that works. So you basically log in on the top right as a buyer. And once you've got your account, your organization will all have we'll choose the same organization. So you're all part of the same network. Let's say I'm talking to this profile. Sorry.
But the background basically is that as a buyer, you create a profile, you can then add notes, you can add suppliers, you can even attach a file, and that's all your confidential information saved in one place for you.
Correct. So
those suppliers.
Yeah, so this is the profile. So all of this is public information. As soon as you log in, it opens up your hub. So here would be your company name, would be your hub. And here you'd write notes, say, whatever you'd want to say, visited for X event, great rooftop for blah, 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 blah. And then
all those little bits of intel.
Yeah, so you'd add that all here. And then if your colleagues have written any notes, so say someone else had met them or gone for a site inspection, if they sent you a floor plan, you could upload that on. So all of this is private hub for you to put your information in.
Okay, cool. Sorry, we digressed.
Yeah, so that's what we've been doing.
Busy. So talk to me a little bit about what inquirers, because you mentioned there about the international stuff. So I found that very interesting, because again, lots of our members are saying, they don't see international travel happening for a good 12 months. But perhaps that's what you're saying, is that people are putting bookings out there, but presumably they're within the contracts they say we might need to cancel, depends on da 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 da. So yeah, what inquiries are you seeing? And how you're seeing this happening across the UK, Europe, size, the recovery, what are you hearing from people?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've got anything that you won't have already heard. Availability is going to be really interesting in the Q3, Q4. I was talking to Mason Rose the other day, and Grantley Hall, fabulous property, I think in Yorkshire, they're already operating at like 90% capacity, which is nuts, because people have got pent up demand on the leisure side every day of the week. You know, it's I think availability for key dates is going to be horrendous, both nationally and Europe and internationally, and there's just going to be, I really just don't know. I mean, everyone's demanding flexible terms. I understand that, because things are going to move, but I feel incredibly sorry for venues and hotels that have had nothing for so long, barely surviving and having to have flexible terms. And then if somebody pulls out, they could have, I think they're going to start to reassert their value when they see so much demand for certain dates. They're going to stop being as flexible because they need to. So that's kind of what I'm seeing.
I think they can be flexible if COVID dictates, but you know, not flexible because, oh, you haven't had enough take up, so you need to reduce your numbers by 50%. You know, you've got to project. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, but you're seeing demand for, because you mentioned a bit earlier, not European travel, or people are, you know, because you are talking with European hotels, you're talking to European agencies. Are they very much focused on their local markets, or are they seeing demand for people to travel to host events?
Yeah, so from a rep survey we did for international, like I said, I think Europe was basically, they've had very, very little, but actually longer haul, they've seen quite a lot of activity. But that's because normally the lead times are, you know, it's 12 months out or even more. So they can start planning those. There's a lot, you know, they need to start kicking off campaigns, and obviously there's always flex in that, but that's what they've really seen. So that's all the rep companies dealing with sort of multiple DMCs around the world.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the V Awards. Tell us a little bit about the background about this. You've got a number of our members are judges. Christopher and Anna are both judges on this, so it'd be great to pull them into the conversation. Yeah, tell us about the awards, background, thinking. I mean, I'm a great believer in them. I know they're a pain in the backside in filling up the forms and putting forward things, but you know, when you win something, it's great for team morale and recognition.
Yeah, so yeah, I totally agree. I think awards are, when I was agency side, I think some of my biggest highlights were winning awards with the team. So it's celebrating a really hard year of work with your team and realizing that from that moment, that recognition, even just between your own circle, and was just incredible. And you can't, almost really hard to put a monetary value on that. Of course we have by entry price, but so what we realized was just how difficult the industry, what difficulties the industry had faced from March 2020 through till now, how hard, we're very connected with the agency world. We've got an agency leader group, and how hard those agencies have worked and corporates have worked to continue communicating, learning a whole new way of doing that through virtual and more so in the hybrid. So we wanted to recognize what work had been done. We wanted to allow those agencies and corporates to recognize their teams that have worked all hours of the day in getting those events off the ground. And also we wanted to collect a body of work which just shows how much has been established in just 1 year. So what we were doing virtually from, say, March to September is going to be completely different to what's been done from January to March this year. I mean, I think it's evolved so much that, stuff you were doing last year it has just moved on so much. So it'd be great to understand what work has been done, how much the boundaries have been pushed, and what technology and way and content and ways have been, are groundbreaking, because we're in the infancy of this industry. So I'm really excited about seeing entries and what did they actually manage to do. Yesterday we had a talk, and I asked the question to some of the panelists about hybrid and what they're seeing and what's been really innovative about hybrid, because that's the buzzword. And to be honest, I didn't get an answer. I didn't really get an answer of what has been innovative, what technology has been groundbreaking and evolved rather than just virtual. How they haven't, I asked about cannibalization of audiences, so that they're just staying at home rather than going to a live event. I think it's probably too early to answer that, but that's what I'm really interested in seeing. So the V Awards, the deadline, the entries are open. So we've had some good submissions in so far. It's a video or written or both entry. The deadline is 30th of April. So we have got a category for best corporate in-house team. So I hope some of you guys will enter, because you guys have
left. Get in. Yeah.
Couple of weeks left. There, of course, there possibly will be a nudge to a slightly extended deadline. There always is. So watch this space.
Question for you actually on that. What's the measure of that? So if it's best corporate in-house team, I mean, you know, it's your word against anyone else's, right? I mean, how do you measure that if you're just doing internal events?
Well, so it's going to be measured. So the criteria is all written up. So when you click to enter, it will tell you in detail kind of what the criteria is for each category. So it will, so let's have a look at that one. So let's go to overall best in-house corporate team. So it says that it's going to basically recognize a team for outstanding virtual events, for the experiences, the creativity, innovation, how they come together to overcome challenges, new virtual formats, the platforms, and then give an example of those how you've demonstrated that. So yes, it's going to be very subjective by the judges looking at that, but you'll be able to, you can see how if a team that's looked at all of their challenges of what they used to do live and how they've had to move those to a virtual format, and not only done that just through Zoom or Teams, but then it evolved that through either moving to hybrid or then introduce some new ways of networking, etc. Engagement, because everyone got so bored of doing a cocktail masterclass. Yes, in June, August, that was amazing, but you try and sell a cocktail masterclass now, you can't do that. So how has it evolved? So all of those things will be, I guess, taken into account. Does that answer your question, Anna?
Yeah, I think it's also it's how well you write your submission, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And it was kind of a provocative question, I guess, but it's just to kind of understand, you know, being on the judging panel as well, what the criteria is and how people can then engage or relate to whatever subject they want to enter.
Yeah. So, and and thank you for being a judge, and Christopher as well is on the call. We're gonna basically give guidelines to the judges on exactly what we're looking for, and actually give it a weighting as well. So there'll be direction. So you, as a judge, you'll get direction as to how to look at an entry, and also try and get past the smoke and mirrors of a very well curated video, which is fantastic. But actually, are we getting to the crux of what was delivered? But yeah, so I hope you guys will enter. Best, I guess the most, well, obviously there's lots of categories that you can enter, but also best in-house corporate team would be really interesting to get from EMA members. And there is a discount coming across from the EMA members, which we'll send across as partners of these awards. So let me just, go back. So the awards, yes, is deadline is 30th of April. You can see on either micebookvirtualawards.com or on mustbeonit.com, you can see the awards there. You can see all the categories that we're looking at. And what we've got, our judging panel is, we try to ensure integrity of these awards. So if you win, you really do get that sense that I've won on merit. So we did that by choosing judges from a real cross section, not just leaders, but also people that are specialists in strategy, creative, technology, production. And so we've got I believe, a really fantastic, varied judging panel that will judge the awards. So it's going to be 2 stages. One, they will judge the entries and score them. Then there'll be a judging day where we'll kind of evaluate all of the entries, and they'll be able to adjust their score accordingly once they've heard some feedback from other judges. And then we've got the awards ceremony going to be at Nobu Portman Square, provisionally at the moment, 2nd of July, taking place live and of course hybrid. There is a chance we might be looking to move that to September, but that's not confirmed, but for obvious reasons. Yeah, so that's
we can't all we have talked about doing an event in July. It's everyone's sort of desperate to get back to to seeing each other again, to getting back.
So yeah, that's absolutely, and we're very keen for July, but I think for the numbers we want to have live in a room and the way we want to do it, it maybe September is a safer bet. So it'd be really interesting to hear from the judges. So far, I know you haven't got the criteria as yet, but what are you excited about seeing, and also how you found the process so far, because it's our first time running an award, so it'd be quite interesting to hear your feedback as well.
Anna, Christopher, do you want to jump in there?
I don't know if Christopher was going to
go. Yeah, I think I really like the way that you've involved all the judges. As you were saying, I really like the fact that there's people in different roles all across the industry as well. So there's a really great mix of corporates, a really great mix of agencies, everybody with different skills. Everything so far about these awards has made me think everything is going to be really transparent. I like the way that we've talked through judging criteria, and you've got buy-in from everybody. You've accepted some great challenges from people, and really listened and really adapted things as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
Thanks, Christopher.
Yeah, I echo that actually, and it was interesting on one of the judging sessions that we had. One of the meetings that we had, that the different criteria and the different categories, we were actually involved in that, and it wasn't like you said, well, this is set in stone, these are the categories, and you've got to judge that. It was an open conversation, and we were all able to give input as to what we thought was either right, or well, we haven't thought about this, maybe this should be a category that we add. So it's nice to be involved at that level, because having judged previous things in the past, sometimes you're just told, right, this is what it is and this is what you've got to judge, and not actually have any input. So it's nice to be involved from grassroots almost, really. So yeah, thank you. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, I think it was really important to get that input, because you guys are the soldiers on the ground, and you know what you're dealing with every day. So it was important to shape and not just almost fall down some obvious routes, which you can do. So yeah, that was really good. And on our voice forum, again, we've got a judging group. So again, just keeping people involved. So that's something we've done. Yeah, so that's the V Awards. Obviously, if anyone's got any questions, happy to answer. But yeah, there we are.
Great, thanks very much. Guys, is there any questions from the audience? The group, I know a very small group today, but Helen, Susie, James, there's anything?
One more question I have, just to jump in. Number-wise, what do you think you're looking at in terms of attendance and the reality of it being July versus September? What's your feeling?
So I'm feeling that if it's almost either date, because it will, unless there's some government legislation, we will just have different safety protocols in place. And maybe they're the same ones in July and September, actually. So testing, whether there's any vaccine passports, who knows, but whatever criteria we can do, whatever we can do to mitigate risk, whatever we can do to make sure the numbers in the room feel comfortable and safe, that's what we'll do. And my hope is to have 200 to 300 in the room. The ballroom can take 600 at the Nobu, so it's 50% capacity. So I'm hoping to have 200 to 300. And then I don't know what else we need to do, but we are considering, as I said, testing, whether there's social distancing within the layouts, all of those things we have to consider. We may even have to consider a completely new format where, where the table setups where you can't, there's no party afterwards as such, but, I don't know. We're going to have to reconfigure the whole event to make sure we're safe, because, the last thing we can do is have a super spreader event for the events industry. That's just going to be the last thing we can do. But I don't actually think it changes between July and September, but it might. We obviously might be a bit more relaxed in September. I also hope there's a 500 to 1,000 hybrid audience, but it's really hard to know what that might be, but I hope that is the case, and of course that can be international as well.
Yeah, I think there's September will give you a little bit more bandwidth to understand what is starting to happen, and then to do that, and also further roll out the vaccine. I literally this morning just ordered the home tests, and we're getting together with some friends in a couple of weeks, but kind of what we've agreed between us, and we're all 60, so we've all had our first jab, we haven't got our second, but we've all said that we will take the personal test the day before, and as long as we're all clear, then we will meet up, but we wouldn't not take that test before meeting up. And I kind of think that will become the norm, won't it, for events as well, even if it's like just I know there's having to do those home tests, and you would not go to an event, hopefully. Can't imagine anybody going to an event if they prove positive. So,
and we're about to just so we're going to go to the Nobu in a couple of weeks to film from the terrace, and I'm going to ask a few people to join me, and I'm going to ask them just to do a test at home. And the other thing to bear in mind, what's quite interesting, which we don't know, is those lateral flows can give a false positive. So that's something to bear in mind, is to do it twice. So if you do get a positive, then do one the next day. I don't know which one you believe.
yeah,
that's the bit that's but it's going to come out more as the tests get more accurate.
I know, but if there's any doubt, so if you've had a positive, stay at home.
Yeah, I think that's the call.
That's the thing. Okay, guys, so Chet, thank you very much for joining us, and certainly to Christopher and Anna for injecting and also being part of the judging panel. That's great. As I said, next Thursday we've got a session. We haven't got a leaders session on Tuesday, but next Thursday we've got a session. So I hope to speak to everyone then. Thank you all. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks all.